Hey, everybody, back again with another Gurunomics episode. And today I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Renee. And we are going to get into the weeds a little bit. Renee is actually in the weeds herself, writing business and helping some agents do so as well successfully. And so she has a lot of great insight into the health insurance and Medicare market. She's actually living the stuff, it's not all theoretical to her. So Renee, thank you so much for being on here. And I'm excited to spend this time with you.
You too. Thank you. I know we've known each other for a while via social media. And it's funny how all of us know of each other, but right. When you really sit down and talk with somebody, you really get to know who they are, their personality, and how you work together. I'm really informal as well. If you ask any of my agents, I am usually in a baseball cap, flip-flops, and shorts.
Yeah. Hey, that's how I like to be. Every now and then there's an occasion where I feel like I'm supposed to dress up, but if you look at me right now, I'm t-shirt.
Yeah, see, you don't have to do your hair.
Oh, that's why I started this. I'm like, you know what? I can get away with this. I got a nice little round head. So I'm going to take advantage of social norms, and this is acceptable for me. So I'm going to take advantage of it. So,
I would too. I see you with a baseball cap a lot. And as a matter of fact, when Andy and you were on there, he said, I took one of your cues, and I said, what's that? And he said, we both wore baseball caps. And I said, good.
There you go. Yeah. It makes you a little more relatable. I'm going to, Andy's a brilliant guy. And he's come into that industry in the time of being polished at the same time. And so I think it's funny to see him try to cut loose a little bit, because he's just such a smart and sharp guy that he's used to being on a little bit. And so, but he came in and did that.
We try to get him really comfortable, and it's really getting out of his comfort zone, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We try to make him let go of the reins a little bit. And he's like, okay.
Yeah. And he worked for so many insurance companies, and they're kind of forced to be so corporate and, kind of, I don't know, there's political correct, and he's corporate correct.
Yep. Yep. And it's funny because today, how long have you been in the business?
7.5 years now.
Okay. So I've been in it almost 13 years.
Yeah.
We didn't have this kind of interaction with each other and other agents. I mean, when you came in, you really thought, okay, that's my competitor.
Yeah.
And today it's not that way. And we get to share stories and see who can add value. And I love that about us today. That's who we are, me as a culture of how can I help you without any expectations of anything in return. Right. Do you need to get licensed with me? No, you don't. And that's what I love about what we do today is we really can work from home. And I do. I've been a virtual agent for over 3 years.
Yeah. No, and you really can. I mean, you can develop, referral-based inbound phone calls and things like that just by working the markets. And, so when I came into the business, I felt like I was part of this kind of movement to bring some people together. And I think a lot of it for me came from the military background, because we had all these different units, but they weren't competitors. There was some slight friendly competition, but at the end of the day, it was all the same exact mission. And so really for us as brokers, really the mission should be going out and making sure that we're covering as many people's, issues or risk as possible, and try to do the best job we can, where we're versed on what products are available to them and what their needs are and how to help them. And we're a lot stronger together than we are apart, just trying. And honestly too, where the real, rubber meets the road in the competition conversation is, I have people right here in Tupelo that are my competition. Very rarely do we run into the same clients, even right here. So I definitely am not running into them to friends of mine that are in Texas or Tennessee or other places.
And that's what I try to get across to people was, I don't ever really run over any of my agents, and my agents are all over the place, but even here in my own backyard, I said, you've got to develop your brand, your personality. If you want to go and meet them on their kitchen table, great, go do that. But find what works for you. And, I've never run over anybody that said, oh yeah, I'm working with so-and-so.
Yeah. I've had some agents that I've tried to make virtual, not tried to make, but they'll come to me and ask about being virtual. And I say, well, you got to do this, this, and this. After a few months, they'll say, you know what? I just love banging on doors. And some of them are really good at it. And I say, well, I don't know how I can support you in that, but I'm going to do my best. Whatever you need, let me know, and we'll try to support you. Because the thing is everybody's is different, and some people really enjoy that. Now, some people, I think, say they enjoy it and it's a cop out and they don't produce a lot, but I do know some agents that are knocking on doors, really kicking ass. And
I applaud them, because I could not do that. That's not who I am. That's not, I'm more of an educator. Now I really wish I had the moxie, I guess, to go knock on doors, because I think it takes a lot of that to really, I guess you get good at it just like anything else after you've done it for a while, but I wouldn't even know how to do that, so it's hard.
No, I did it long enough to know that I didn't want to do business that way.
Well, and that's a funny thing that you say that. I actually designed the life that I want. There was a post yesterday or day before yesterday in a woman's group, and it said something about this girl was so excited. She had just gotten her license, and she went to her grandmother, who was about 60 years old, and she was just enamored. And her grandmother said, ooh, nobody wants life insurance. You mean you went to college for that? I mean, it just burst her bubble. And all the women that were in that group supported her. And I basically said, let me tell you something. People would kill for my life, because I can work from wherever I want to work from, whenever I want to work. And if I want to raise, I work harder. If I'm tired, I take a vacation. If I don't want to work that day, I don't schedule anything. I mean, we have so many opportunities today that we didn't have 7 years ago or 13 years ago when I came into the business, that I really wish I would have gotten into it, at a younger age. So I really am looking at younger agents to recruit for that reason. I mean, think about the residual income.
Yeah. It can just be built just by slow and steady wins the race, and doing the right thing and just helping people. That's it. I mean, we get into a conversation, find out what somebody's needs are, and then just help them. But and so I tell my agents, that I bring on in-house, we actually advance commissions now, but when we first brought them on, we weren't advancing. We pay a small base pay, and then we just build. And I would tell them, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Your income's just going to build and build and build. And every month it'll be more than it was the month before. And those people, if you talk to a couple of the ones that have been with me for a while, they're like, it was so true. It was like, they didn't believe you in the beginning, and I had to really push them. But then they're like, dang, 5, 6 months in, 7 months in, 8 months in, I'm just compounding income. And it's the eighth wonder of the world, residual income.
It is.
But yeah, we want to do business in a way that makes me get paid for years and years to come. So, so you're right now, you've been in about 13 years, and you're focusing on, how many states would you say you're working in right now?
7.
And
I started out in Texas. Actually, I started out in Fort Worth. I didn't go any further than that. And about 3 years ago, when I came into the market, I was in the individual market. And 13 years ago, that's when it was actually inexpensive to have a family plan. And you're probably looking at $400 or $500. But they were like, nah, I don't need it. And I'm like, you can't afford not to have it. And so I didn't really connect with that. And I've always connected with my grandparents and things like that. So I had a local Medicare Advantage company call me and say, hey, won't you come work for us? And I was like, no, I've got my own company. Well, wasn't making any money, but you want to do that. And so after about the third call, I said, okay, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know Medicare. He said, I'll train you. And I was like, wait a minute, local, brand new, Medicare Advantage, owned, doctor owned, local, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I ran 250, maybe 300 appointments. I sold 133 Medicare Advantage plans in AEP.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was the biggest high I'd ever had. I mean, it was just, and I had no idea what I was doing most of the time, but he gave me a out, so to speak. He said, you've got me on speed dial. He went out with me one day.
Yeah.
And then the next day he said, you're going to have to get your nose bloody. And I was like, what? And but it was a great learning experience. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'd never had so much fun. And I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I've owned several businesses, but nothing felt that good.
Yeah. No, I know the feeling, because when you write a bunch of business, as grueling as it can be sometimes, and when you're really diving in, especially in annual enrollment or open enrollment, but when you're really writing that business, it just feels like, and especially when you've been through it enough to know what the other side of that looks like with the commission and the residual, then you're hitting it and you're just like, man, we're building a real renewal chain here that'll fuel growth. And that's the cool thing about this industry, is you could take that growth and make as much out of it as you want. You can, like you said, craft the life that you want, where you can just get enough residual income coming in to be like, this supports the lifestyle that I want. And then I can do life on my terms and decompress and not have to schedule like where I'm working all the time. Now, some people might try to take that to the extreme and don't work at all. And you have to put something into it.
Well, it's that work-life balance deal. And I really adhere to that, because I know me, and I know that works best for me.
Yeah.
We have some of our agents that they just wear themselves out, and I'm like, take a break. I can't. I got to make this one. I'm like, you can't take it with you,
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. So you after that AEP, doing 133 apps, and I know now you're working, all in with North American Insurance Services, North American Life Plans. Tell me about that transition, or how that timeline worked out.
So I did that, stayed connected with them, but after AEP, we didn't really have anything to do. And I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs. I felt like I was being babysat. And I was like, look, I've always been an out of the box thinker. I've always owned my own businesses or did things differently. And so I said, look, why don't I go and work on my insurance company? And if you guys need me, I'll run appointments for you. And that was a win-win situation for them. They didn't have to employ me. They didn't have to, any of that stuff. And it worked out great. So I stayed connected with, and I'm still very connected with that company, but it's been bought by one of our big hospitals here. And it worked out great, because it was a good company, still is a good company. We had great speakers. Nolan Ryan was one of our spokesmen, and so for that, we really did well locally, and it's just a local company. But I really loved that. I loved the Medicare piece, so I stayed in that. But probably like you, or most all agents, most guys that retire, their wife is 5 to 10 years younger, so you have to have a place to put them.
Right.
And so then came the under 65, and that's when I met Andy, and it was North American Life Plans at the time. And they're about an hour from me. And so I picked up the phone and I said, I got on a webinar. I do exactly the same thing you do, because somebody taught me a long time ago, insurance is a one-legged stool. It's not very sturdy, but if you do an accident and a critical illness, you're covering a lot of bases. So I'd already been doing that, even with major medical. And I did it for myself, and thank goodness I did, because I did have to use it. I was diagnosed with cancer 1.5 years ago, and I sell what I preach. And, cashed in on $75,000. Not the way you want to make money,
Yeah.
but you're glad you have it if you need it. And mine wasn't as severe as a lot of people. Mine was, in my opinion, minor, but you have to live what you preach and do that. So when I found Andy and North American Life Plans at the time, which we've just rebranded North American Insurance Services, I loved the stacking or bundling or layering, whatever you want to call it. And that's how I present it to my clients. Whatever you want to think of flow, bundling.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah. I said, I get to build or design a plan that will be as comprehensive as any plan you can find and fill in as many holes or gaps that I can and still give you, a really nice premium instead of you having to pay here and having, because it's a math problem to me.
Yeah.
For me, it was $800 a month for the cheapest Blue Cross Blue Shield plan there was, $10,000 a year, just to have access. And I see my doctor once a year. And then I had a $6,000 deductible. So I'm on the hook for what? Almost $17,000.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me. So, that's kind of how I got into it. I'm really passionate about that. I'm passionate about helping people find avenues that they don't know are out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I love that, that you've actually have that story that you have taken that insurance coverage to the max. And so, what you're selling provides real value. And, we say that on small things, like we would tell people, this is the dental policy that we all as an office, but to be able to say it on something that's large scale like that, and to have that diagnosis, and thank God you're, coming out on the other side of that and happy and healthy. But to have been able to really put it to the test and to share that as a huge testimonial to clients too.
Well, and that's what people really want. Like you and I were talking before we turned on the recording of, people want real people.
Yeah.
They don't want a salesperson. They want somebody that's going to talk to them, understand who they are, understand their needs, understand their problems. If they have a problem, great. Let's try to fix. If they don't have a problem, they probably don't need me.
Yeah.
And there's many times where I will tell them, look, you're in a great plan.
Yeah.
Stay exactly where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And they will send me as many referrals as my current clients.
Right. Now, so you're in 7 states. A lot of people always, wonder, and obviously there's content and there's Google and SEO ads and there's Facebook leads and there's telemarketing and there's ways to get, clients. Do you find that you're just building a large referral network that's reaching out that far? Or is there like a strategy that nets people, or do you just pick up a license when you get a contact in a different state?
That's exactly what it is. So when I got a hold of Andy and North American Insurance Services, I was not a good marketer at all. I knew how to design plans, and I finally found somebody, because I wouldn't sell under 65. A lot of guys contracted me, but they didn't teach me or train me, and I wasn't about to put my name on it. I've lived in Fort Worth for 30 years, kind of like you. Your name means something, and if you don't believe it, you're not selling it. I did the same thing. And so when I finally got somebody to show me what it was, I'll tell them, look, it's not perfect, but here's the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And you get to make that decision of if it's something that you want to do. And so when we ended up doing all of that, I pick up license when I need it. Either I've got an agent in that area and I need to know what their products are, or I've got somebody that says I need life insurance, or I need this, or I need that, but I really still only do Texas. I had a guy with our company, we have marketing allowance. The more you produce, the more money you get as marketing allowance. And so I never really knew what that was. And so I called this guy that I'd watched on Facebook. That's the only way I advertise, by the way, is Facebook. People hop on my calendar. I'm not somebody to do cold calls, just like I'm not somebody to knock on doors. I want people to come to me.
Right.
And so I called this guy and I said, look, I've watched you on Facebook. I know you're an insurance guy. I know you do Medicare. I have $2,000 I've got to spend in 9 days. Can you help me? And he went, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, oh, by the way, I'm going on vacation in 5. He said, okay. And we did. And he still does all my stuff today. And I have people hop on my calendar just from my Facebook ads and they're not anything difficult, but when you're doing, I don't want to ever learn that because of the marketing and target marketing and, retargeting and all that stuff. That's not my expertise. So,
Yeah.
but I love that because it's building a referral base. They're calling me. Yeah. I'm not calling them. I would hate to cold call and someone say, you're the 15th agent and click. I mean, that would just destroy me, I think.
Well, I'm telling you what, the fact that you found somebody that is providing real value to you. There's so many out there that sell you that they can, and then they really can't. And I think a lot of it too is it gets gimmicky. Like people try to do the same thing over and over. So a lot of times, just having an authentic ad and to be able to work local. And when I say local, people always think local means in person. It doesn't. We do a lot of local. We do even our local business is 60% over the phone, but they do like the fact that we are in Mississippi. That makes us less of a like foreign business or a call center or something like that. We're just a regular broker agent that can do business over the phone. So they get. But
I guarantee you, they know that before they call you because people will cyber stalk you. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but so the guy that does all my Facebook ads and stuff, he's always wanted me to be on camera, always. And I'm like, I hate the camera. I don't want to be on the camera. He's like, Renee, you're so authentic. Please get on the camera. So when he sees this, he will die laughing because I mean, I've slowly but surely come out of that I don't really care anymore. I just want to be able to help people. And so now that we're building an agency and we're building agents that are newer, they want to know who a real authentic person is, of not just saying, here, give me your contract, which so many people used to do. And then you're right, they provided nothing. Yeah.
It was just contract houses. Mm-hmm. I've been to, a lot of FMOs and talked to a lot of them. And I've seen some extremely impressive ones. Mm-hmm. I've even seen some that are really impressive at churning out contracts. You don't do a lot of value, not a lot of value on the back end, but it's impressive how many contracts they can process.
Exactly.
Because we know that the contracting side can be a pain in the butt in itself. But once you have somebody that's, the reason we tell people, I don't want to take an agent from 0 to 5 is it's just not my specialty. My specialty is taking an agent that's already doing well, that wants to build an agency or, a local agency outfit, brick and mortar office the way we do. I hate telling somebody I can help them with anything. I want to be able to help them get from 5 to 10. That's my thing. And that's why we've, partnered with you and Andy, because we know that you guys have a difference. You could do some of that as well, but there's a skill set there. You find the person that wants to be like Renee and replicate that model, and you can help them do that. Now they're going to have to work. Right. But you once you find somebody that's willing to put in the work, you can help them save a lot of time spinning their wheels and wasting time doing things that don't work, because you found out early on there were some things that didn't work, and there are some things that work extraordinarily well for certain periods of times, and then there's the consistent. That's what I find is there are some things that work really well for a short amount of time, and then they kind of go like this, and then there are some things that it's not that they work really well, but they work well enough and they're consistent.
What's so funny is that all of our top producers, let's say there's 10 of us really that are the big top producers, none of us really do the same thing. We've got one guy that loves to go out and do breakfast, lunch, and network and chamber. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then we've got another one that she does cold calls all the time. And I mean, she is our top producer. And the funny thing about it is we didn't really design it this way, but more than half of our top producers are women.
Yeah.
Because we'll be on calls and Andy's like, why am I the only man on this call?
No, me and him talked about that when we were here, and we were talking about how, I don't know what it is, like maybe I'm brash or whatever, but a lot of it's weird, like my YouTube audience is primarily men, it says, like in the thing, and I don't know if that's because men are more likely to have logged into their Gmail account, I don't know. But then on Facebook we seem to have a pretty even split. But then when I pull agents over, I'll have agents that are females that will consume a bunch of information from me, but then they'll like have another guy that they're like, I'm gonna put my contracts with this person. And I always wondered what it is, but him and I were talking about that, and I think that you guys have created kind of a great culture for women like yourself, Jackie, I won't say Dina, because Dina's she's a machine, right? So but for women,
she is our top producer, and I'm telling you, you can't duplicate that. Well, and I love her. She and I are really good friends, but well, you just can't duplicate that.
Yeah, that's just sheer willpower right there. That it's hard to get in the way of. Some people just are like that. They're just that. Andy says she's the top producer. He says the hardest way to make that much money he's ever seen, but it just works for her. So
it does. And that's the funny thing about our company is we don't try to make somebody do one thing. We figure out what your skill set is. Mm-hmm. And then we have people that are already either doing that. Yeah. Dina wasn't virtual for a long time. Now she is. I mean, she always did things, but she never really did virtual. And now it's just a great benefit for her. And, gosh, Jackie, I mean, what a great success story she is. And, we've got some really, I think I love our culture more than just about anything is we are not, how many policies do you have out? How much money have you made? We are really about how can we help build? And we don't want to be a 10,000, 100,000 agent company. That's not our desire. Our desire is to still stay a kind of a boutique type company where we all know each other. I mean, we are all friends. We pick up the phone and call if we have a question, and we're not competitors at all. And I said, you really don't find that in a lot of FMOs.
Well, that was how Andy had, when we were talking about it, he said that that was something like we think of these titles of things that like how someone wants to view how to make this much money, how to do this. And he was saying, like, even when they did the Jackie interview with Landon and those guys, he said we wanted the title, how I think something like related to how a stay-at-home mother can make
five children
kids, homeschool. And wanted to make it more like where you're looking for these people that like, I am a stay-at-home mom, or I am. It's not necessarily that I'm looking to make $1 million or $500,000. I want to find the agents that just want to make 50, 60, 75,000, 100,000 a year, but be able to do it in a way that works into their family life as well, or their hobbies, or all the other things. And some of those producers, it kind of opened my eyes that we've recruited some, and most agents don't succeed. And I think you'd almost be better off looking for the agents that don't want to be millionaires. Because sometimes when people say I want to be a millionaire, they want money, but they don't
know how to go get it.
Yeah. And they don't really have the willpower to do it, and when you have somebody that just wants to be able to work in enough to help their husband not have to work, or their wife not have to work. Because I've dealt with men like that too, that their whole goal is to make it where their wife doesn't have to work so much.
Right. I mean, everybody has different agendas. And I think that's the reason we've partnered and are going to work so well together is you really are looking for a different type of agent because you don't have the time, the energy, or the people to actually get somebody from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And we do. And that's in a good way.
Yeah, no, it's a good way, because there's a lot of people that, like, if the scale is and I hate the 0 to 10 scale is what I use, but 5 on my scale may be 10 on what somebody else wants to accomplish.
Right.
Like, they don't like,
Right.
they might look at an agency like what we run as being like, oh, I don't even want that headache, because some days I don't either. I mean,
I'm one of those. I do not want a brick and mortar building. I do not want
yeah.
overhead. I do not want employees.
I'm telling you, there are, and I have people that work for me that are making, fabulous incomes, that have none of the stress that I do, because they show up, the marketing is paid for, the office is there, the phone lines are hot, and they're ready to go, and they're getting their income, and then they get to mentally check out.
Yep.
And some of them don't even understand how good that is. And there are days where, I think, shoot, if I could make X number, X dollar amount, and had none of the stress, that would be great, but then there are other days where I'm a conquistador, and I want to go and like build an empire as well. So it's just kind of a give and take. I'm about 80% build an empire, and 20% of the time think, boy, if I could just dial down to this amount and go to the beach more often, I'd be happy.
I think we all have that, but I mean, I really, at my age, I designed this life because I saw in the industry of, every big corporation, they were getting rid of the older people with the experience. They were, women, really don't add value because they have kids and family. And it's like, no, but you look at this industry, we're really looking for, and we just recruited a lady that retired from teaching. Yeah. She doesn't really want to become a huge producer, but she's Medicare, and she thinks that will be a good market for her.
Well, we have one locally, and so like when I use my 0 to 5, 5 to 10 reference locally, I'll take in people that are, because I can support them better. They're right here. They can come to our in-office training, and we actually have one agent who is a UPS retiree. Yep. So same thing. She had ran routes for years. My dad knew her. She was our UPS lady when we lived out in a smaller town. And so when she got out and she wanted to start selling insurance, but it's not necessarily to, build some gigantic business. It's just to supplement income, maybe create beside her UPS pension, create another pension from insurance. It's the same. And all of a sudden she's doing pretty well, but especially considering you and I have dealt with Medicare retirees, and the average retiree is doing pitiful. Unfortunately, their income is crap. And so for somebody to have one retirement, like say, through, Texas teachers got their retirement, maybe they have some health, I think they put them on an advantage plan or something now, but so they could probably shop it. It's not great, but they have some pension or some kind of benefit. Then they go and they create about that same amount through insurance sales, and all of a sudden they're doing 10 times better than the average retiree.
And they're not ready to retire. The 65-year-old is not the 65-year-old that used to be. I mean, they're going, okay, now what's next? Yeah. I'm 59. I can't imagine retiring in 6 years.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who he was, because a lot of people, there are people out there, and typically some of the ones that turn out the worst, that really thought, I want to retire at 62 or 65 when I can get Social Security. And we, especially maybe in poor states like Mississippi, we run across a lot of them. But I have a friend who was teaching, I don't know why, he was about my age, and they had him teaching a Sunday school class with a bunch of like 64, 65-year-olds. And he did a lesson on how retirement isn't biblical, and how like in the Bible, it doesn't talk about you get to retire at 65 and take off the next 20 years. And he said that they just gave him faces like, he's not allowed to speak on this. But there is some truth to okay, the government says 65 is the cutoff, but many people have plenty to give at that point. Now, should they be working in factories and throwing stuff around at a certain point? No, I think people need to get out of that as soon as they can. But to sell insurance, or to not even sell, like you said, educate people on options, and to be, and I loved the term navigator when the Affordable Care Act came up with it. Because to be a navigator, now I don't want to be a navigator because they're not paid as well as an agent,
Right.
but to really be a product specialist from the insurance perspective, but to help people navigate the marketplace.
And we do that. I mean,
That's what you do.
I'm sure you do exactly what I do. I mean, even though I cut my teeth on Medicare Advantage plans, I also learned that they're not the end all be all. And so, I present both. I tell them exactly what the choices are, and then I let them but that's the way that I, one, educate, and two, help navigate Medicare into what is a good fit for you. And just like in our under 65, I stacked, layered, or bundled. That's what we've really been teaching our agents how to do in Medicare, because for some reason, how you think everything, and then all of a sudden 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, why am I not stacking Medicare?
Yeah.
And so I went to Andy and I said, I don't know why we're not doing this. And he was like, me either. And so I started, I'm the technology of everything. And so I got a spreadsheet together and I looked at exactly what it looked like stacking and not stacking. And I presented it to our agents and they were like, holy cow, because I was doubling, tripling, sometimes quadrupling my income.
Yeah.
But I was actually protecting my client from financial exposure that they really didn't know they had.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking dental and vision. I'm talking, we put together a whole Medicare complete package.
Yeah.
And then I present it and they get to tell me what they want, what they may already have. And I tell them, look, you may already have this covered, but if you don't, it's my job to tell you about it.
Yeah.
And they get that.
Yeah, we did, with cancer, with the 5% unlimited co-insurance on drugs and the travel related to it. And, people would ask us, can I use this plan at MD Anderson? And I was like, well, it's a Medicare supplement. So yes, you can. But you never really talked about, if you have to go to MD Anderson, now you're going to have to stay in a hotel there. Now you're going to have to, you're going to have to travel there, and there's gas expenses. Maybe you're flying there. There's all sorts of expenses related to going to MD Anderson for somebody that doesn't live right there, that they're going to have to pay, and the supplement's not going to pay for all of that. And so when you have the drug expense and all that, a lump sum cancer policy was a huge add-on, so with dental, vision, hearing, cancer, and then
I
the
didn't
Medicare
even
Advantage
really
side,
realize that.
yeah,
I didn't think about, I kind of was the mindset of anybody else. Well, they've got a Medicare supplement. They can go wherever they want. It'll cover it. But when I finally said, I'm not putting this on because you're not going to have cancer paid for. I'm putting this on because, do you have $6,500 for your cancer treatment and, travel? And they're like, no. I said, that's what this is designed for.
Right.
And they get it afterwards, because if you just say, I'm going to put a cancer policy on here, they're like, oh, I've got a Medicare supplement. Why do I need that?
Yeah. From what I've seen, the ones that buy that stuff too are much less likely to move their Medicare Advantage plan from you later on as well. So, become much more of a lifelong client. The value for you is up. The value for them is up. And, that is our job, is to protect risk. It's not to, a lot of times we get into our head like being overly budgeting in their mind, and you forget how big of an issue healthcare is to some of those people, where at that point in some of their lives, healthcare is supposed to cost more, as far as, how much risk they're willing to take on when they didn't before. So a lot of them really do want to make sure that they're buttoned up as much as possible.
I don't even ask what your budget is. I've never asked that ever in my entire, because I know they'll end up telling me.
Yeah.
But my job is to do my job.
Yeah.
And I love Galen, and she's the one that kind of taught me about the cancer. And I heard her when she said, if you're not doing this, you're not doing your job. And I was like, gosh. And so that's how I kind of present it to my clients, is this is my job. This is what I do. Yeah. And we can talk about all of these or none of them. Mm-hmm. We can put some of them on now. We can put some of them on later. It's not, but my job is to really show you where you're going to be exposed somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Renee, it's been really fun hanging out and getting to know a little bit about your progression. If any agents were wanting to look out or reach out to you, of course, they could reach out to us. We have a link for our NAIS partnership where we could send them. But if they were just trying to get with you, what's the easiest way for them to reach out directly to you?
I am on Facebook, or my office number is 817-249-8200. But look up Renee Shannon on Facebook and I'm there. Or you can call North American Insurance Services.
Yeah.
And they'll get us, put together, and we'll figure out what we can actually help you guys with.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with me.
You too. Nice to get to know you.
Absolutely. And we'll be talking soon again, and may do a follow-up interview. So stay tuned. Right. And if you guys want to talk to Renee, just like she said, look her up on Facebook, Renee Shannon, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you so much.